Hi, this is Zealana from Zealana, and I'm here to walk you through a couple of the techniques that you'll need for the Valla knit-along. This is our first knit-along, and it's a new pattern, the cover pattern from the Passport magazine, which is a free magazine you can get anywhere Zealana is sold. You'll need 3 balls of Zealana Air lace, which is a lace weight yarn made of brushtail possum, cashmere, and silk. You'll need stitch markers. You'll need 1 to mark the beginning of your round. You'll actually need 9 to make the pattern, to knit the whole pattern, but I'm going to show you how, if you are light on stitch markers, you can make your own using any scrap yarn that you have around. Contrasting color is best. You are just going to make a little loop around your finger and fasten that with a double knot. Cut the yarn and you've got yourself a little homemade stitch marker. You can also use paper clips, whatever you have around. You'll need a tapestry needle to weave in your ends. I like ones that have a curved end. It's a little easier to dig into stitches when you're doing your finishing work. But any tapestry needle will work. Blunt edge is good. You'll need a circular needle. I think what I'm showing here is actually a 16-inch or maybe a 20, but you'll need a 24-inch circular. Doesn't matter the material, bamboo if you're more comfortable with that. This is metal. Casting on. To get started, you're going to use the long tail cast on, and I believe in the pattern you're casting on 264 stitches. I'm just going to show you a few here. Usually you start with a slip knot, which is really easy. You just pull a loop through and tighten up. Place that on your needle and tighten it. So again, really slowly, you just make an E shape and pull the yarn through that E shape and then tighten it up. You don't actually have to do this. I've actually discovered that you can start a project without a slip knot just by laying the yarn over the needle, get your hands and your yarn into the typical long tail cast on slingshot formation, which I'm showing here, and just cast on your first stitch. No knot necessary. Scoop under the yarn on the thumb, over the yarn that's on the index finger, go back through that loop and drop the yarn off your thumb and tighten it up. Don't tighten too much, try to keep a nice even tension. This looks really complicated, but once you get the hang of it, you get a rhythm going and it's really not that bad. I'm sort of doing it in ultra slow motion here to show you how it's done. You can use any cast-on method for this cowl, but this is specified in the pattern and it does make a nice, stretchy, clean edge. So join to work in the round. This is something that might trip you up when you're working in the round for the first time. You just want to make sure that all of the little ends, you see that there's a tiny little knot at the base of every stitch, and then there's a loop that's over on the side, or over the needle. You want to make sure that all of those little bumps are facing down. You want to make sure there's no major twists. Just take a look and make sure that they're all straight and even. And it's hard to do with a circular needle, especially with a flexible cable. So you might want to lay it on a flat surface like a table, just to make sure that those are untwisted. If you do join and have a twist, you'll end up with a piece of knitting that is sort of a Mobius, but not a true Mobius. It'll just be a tangled piece that won't work as the cowl. Once you're totally sure that they're all straight, you can bring your needle tips together and take the working yarn. The working yarn means the one that's attached to the ball, not the yarn tail end. I've used the wrong one and you end up running out of yarn a couple stitches in, so don't make that mistake. You want to place your marker. This can be your special beginning of round marker, and just go ahead and knit your first stitch. Make sure that you knit this first stitch, and actually the first couple of stitches, knit them on the firm side maybe pull a little extra tighter on the yarn and just make sure that they're nice and firm. If you don't do that, you're going to maybe get a gap right where the two ends have joined, right where your stitch marker is, but you can use your yarn tail to neaten that up if it does happen. It is a common problem. Round 4, you're going to work a few rounds of garter stitch, and in the round that means alternating knitting and purling. Round 4, you're wrapping the yarn around 3 times before you actually complete your stitch. This is the first real complicated thing in the pattern. And actually this is just setting you up for the drop stitches that are going to happen on the next round. So you wrap the yarn around once, twice, 3 times, and then you complete the stitch. This round is going to be slower than any of the other rounds you've worked, but it's worth it in the end because you gain pretty much a whole inch of knitting when you drop those extra wraps. So once more, I switched yarn hands, I switched my hold. This is a continental or left-handed knitting. Same exact motion. Round 5 is asking you to purl and drop off the extra wraps. So you purl and you nudge those little extra wraps off, and then you'll see that your stitch gets really, really tall. This is called a dropped stitch. And you've all heard of a drop stitch. That's not usually a good thing in knitting. This is also called an elongated stitch. It's a nice, easy way to get an airy, lacy look. And also, it's nice and fast. Your knitting grows quite a bit with very little work. Those extra wraps are on the tight side, so it might take a little bit of adjusting to get them all up onto the needle where they can be purled and dropped. This is the completed round, all of the dropped elongated stitches. So after a few more rounds of garter, you are going to be working your first little lace patterning bit. You knit 2 together, knit 2. The pattern actually states for you to knit 39 stitches before doing this, but just pretend I've done that. Now you're going to wrap, you're going to yarn over twice. So you're actually wrapping, you've already done that before, you've wrapped 3 times, this time you're only wrapping around two times. Then you knit 2, and then you slip knit, you do a decrease to mirror the first one that you did, the knit 2 together. So this is just going to create those little striped lace columns with the stitch in the middle, the open work stitch in the middle. So complete that round. I think you do that 4 times in total. And the next round after that is pretty simple. There's one kind of funky maneuver. So you're going to purl through because you're doing garter, and garter in the round you do have to alternate knits and purls. You can't just knit every round. So you're purling 3, and then you get to this double yarn over. This is a little hard to do, but you knit and then you purl into the same double yarn over. You're creating a nice open stitch, an open eyelet, and then a twisted little bit of yarn. It's really attractive once you've got a couple of those stacked up. And you just complete that little section by purling 3, and you follow the pattern, work to the next marker, and repeat this a total of 4 times. So you have 2 on the front and 2 on the back. And that's pretty much it. Once you get to the very end of the pattern, you're going to be working some twisted ribbing, which I'll demonstrate. And then the pattern also specifies for you to bind off in pattern. So twisted ribbing, you're knitting 1 to the back loop, and then purling 1, knitting 1 to the back loop again, and that just creates a really awesome, defined, ridgy looking 1x1 rib. It's a bit slower to work than regular ribbing, but it's really worth it. You can see the little twisted stitches at the end. It's crossed at the bottom of those knit stitches. This is the original that is knit and designed by Courtney Spainhauer, aka Pink Brutus Knits, and you can see that gorgeous 1x1 twisted ribbing and the clean little bind off. You can find the pattern and more on Zealana.com.